the other thing too, we do have some knickknacks here. We'll have a break sometime in here, hopefully after end soil to stand up. We do have a drawing for a little travel voucher, so we'll have that. We've got some, we just got some goodies up here to come take a peek and have. Market price relaxing. Market price relaxing.
Well, good enough.
We'll let it kick off with Rich.
Yeah, Rich Judge, if you haven't met me before, but I think I recognize virtually every face in the room, so we should be able to squeak through this with no issue. Really just picked out a couple things that over the winter I've been listening to comments and discussion on. One of them was the corn rootworm pressure forecast. We did have a period of light snow cover for a while and some very cool temperatures. And you always get the question of what was the mortality on those little critters. And quite honestly, for the duration we saw, we're still looking about at this same forecast. Likelihood of any significant mortality because of the winter we had is close to nil. I would say, looking at those, we are discovering still more corn rootworms in rotated acres in different spots. Not a huge widespread deal, but not impossible. It seems to happen a little bit more often than it has 10 years ago. But I don't think I've actually run into it in this area. But if you do start seeing, because that second bar is showing pretty decent beetle traps, about 15% in the heavier deal, and that second bar is first year corn. So if you start seeing little pockets of corns getting tippy and it doesn't look like it's because of drainage or the topography of the field or a compaction line, there's just kind of little globs, might want to do some digging even in rotated ground to just make sure you don't have to do a little something. I really haven't changed my opinion on what we're doing. Over the last 2-3 years, we've still got corn rootworm, but I haven't seen it climbing back since our last high point. So they're kind of staying in check with the processes we're doing today. So southern rust was a big thing this winter, or this past year. And I just wanted to hit that again because it seems like it comes up in every meeting. And this is the number one disease people are asking about. To me, you can't say it's not going to be problematic this coming year. And the reason you can't say that is years ago, we had like a 100-year flood. And I told people, well, that's not likely to happen again. The next year we had one on year one, and I was like, well, shit, that didn't work out. But to have the right series of events where that can move up, because it's got a hop from way south. It's an obligate pathogen, and so it has to survive on a host, number one, that it likes, which is few and far between, and number two, that plant's got to be alive. So it is the one that can't do it, but it's got to hop its way back up here, and when it gets here, it's got to have an environment it likes. Usually for us, if it does get to our part of Iowa, it's very late in the season before we get the higher temps combined with humidity that really help it go. This past year, we had times in June and July where it kind of liked it. So that changes some stuff. I've heard a lot of people thinking about theories that, possibly, I had one yesterday, they wondered if it survived underneath snowdrifts, because that sometimes you got green stuff underneath there when it melts in the spring. And I'm like, nope, don't do it. But one thing I was thinking about, if you look at those little orange globs on the bottom, the cotton market kind of collapsed. So if you're looking for a lily pad for that thing to leapfrog all its way up here, most of those cotton acres went to corn. So it might have a few more spots to work its way up here, and that could help. But long story short, if we look at tar spot or southern rust, tar spot, gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, you name it, every one of the diseases on the right side, one likes our weather better, and two survives in our state. No problem. Southern rust is the only one that has to come from somewhere else. So don't take your eye off the ball when you're thinking about products and stuff. You know, if you go grab the best southern rust thing in the world and it sucks at tar spot, you're not really stacking the deck in your favor. As we do start looking at planting this spring, this was another kind of discussion folks were having, and I think it relates to the I don't know where that one thing went, but oh, okay, I just got a funny order here. But you know, if we get to the spring, Matt said, you know, we're going to pick out products that can handle a little more stress, because we can't sit around, twiddle our thumbs till June and then plant corn. But you always got, you know, you see a lot on the internet about soil temperature. We got a lot of ways we can watch that forecast, and I always consider soil conditions. And a lot of times, I think they're kind of in the wrong order. A lot of people are only focusing on that soil temperature, and quite honestly, first I want to know I'm putting it into good soil conditions. That's my number one. If it's not quite 50, I don't care, because number two, I'm looking at the forecast. If I can put it in the soil in good conditions, it's not so bitterly cold that I'm going to cold shock it, and I got a forecast that tells me I'm going to quickly get there, I'm going to cut it loose. So the soil temperature, usually I'm looking at that if, say, we've been planting the first part of April, and maybe we got the soils up to 54, and we got decent soil moisture. Well, if there's a rain event coming in, and that rain event's supposed to be fairly warm, it probably isn't going to change that soil temperature too much. And if I got some buffer there, even if it is cold, if I planted right up to that, that would hold enough heat that that seed can completely swell, get itself past that chilling injury thing before the temp goes down, so you're still good to go. But if I thought I had a dry soil, I was barely at 50, and I'm supposed to get a 32-degree rain, I might stop a day and a half, 2 days early, just to make sure I don't get myself in trouble. So that's the order I put them in. Soil conditions are number one. You pack that sidewall, that sumbitch like that the whole year. There's no getting over it. Plant was.
You want to add to that?
What?
Seed supply. Because you go out with your number one corn April 10th, and it's not perfect, and there are issues. It's going to be tough to find that number one hybrid again.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to put that in your back of your brain.
And if we do get into a risky situation, I know, are you in my crop or whatever that's called? So you can get to that now. And this is a nice tool that essentially what it's considering is the GDUs, the moisture that's fallen, the forecast that's coming up. So it looks at like the last 10 days, and then it uses the forecast for the 10 days going forward, tries to predict how much that's going to warm a soil temp, cool a soil temp, so on and so forth, and give us an idea if we're getting into a risky situation. These are some old ones, because if you run it today, it's going to say don't plant. But green, you're usually good to go. Yellows, kind of got to, like Matt said, pick the right product. Red, if it says red, the model is saying your corn will stay underground for a minimum 18 days if you plant. And a lot of times you'll find out on these little charts that, you know, I pushed it, I planted a week earlier, and I actually only got my corn to emerge a day or two quicker than if I waited for better conditions, and I could have got maybe a more even stand and stuff. But this is one way we can look at it. Here's another way where you just, let's see what we're doing here. Eagle growth, different dates, how many, as I move from April 11th all the way to May 2nd, how many days it was predicting each time it would take to get that corn out of the ground. So in the beginning, uh, you're pushing it there at 17 days, and it gets up at the end of April. But by the time you get to the end of April, May 8th or May 11th isn't a lot different as far as how your crop's going to develop, because May 8th to May 11th, you're probably picking up single digit GDUs per day. All you need is one decent day in July and you're back on track. This was another one where, another way to look at it, but long story short on that one, if the whole map is green and it's good to go, don't expect an email. I only use it when you're trying to figure out if we should or shouldn't tap the brakes. And if we get ourselves in that kind of question, that's when Matt will be in there just feverishly typing away. And this probably got handed out, or it's going to get handed out. But we got all our different products there. And really what we're doing is just trying to look at emergence, early growth, and I would say also there's a fair bit of windage just because we have some personal experience on how tolerant different genetics are to more stressful emergence conditions. But so excellent, you can plant anything you want. Challenged would be, you're in that yellow zone, it's going to sit underground for 2 weeks plus. Which ones are my best choice to make sure I get an adequate stand? And that sheet you'll get has them both. To Matt's point on extras, we were having some debate because the emergence ratings on like 106.98 would tell you it's not that speedy. But our experience has been stand establishment, however that plant isn't big when it's young, it's fairly uniform and gets by very good. So Scott Johnson, the other agronomist, and I were talking back and forth about it, and we figured out that since we've sold every stinking bag we already got, maybe we should just leave it like that, because if you waste that product, you probably ain't replanting that one. Because
I already gave up ours. So
I don't remember what this was. Oh, this was a few new things we got coming. So even with all the pressures and whatever else going on in the ag, and I think that is actually in euros, so it's relative, but it's ballpark on the exchange rate. Instead of 2.4 billion, you're probably 2.3 US dollars, something like that. But versus competitors, we're still puking a lot of money into a lot of different things. Tried to find new stuff moving forward. So those are, that line going up is all the crap we've launched over the years. And moving forward, we got a lot more things. So in the next 10 years, we're going to roll out as much stuff as I've been involved with since I started with them 19 years ago. It'll be about the same pile of stuff. So it's going to be kind of a learning curve. Most of these things, though, I think do have merit. One of them would be corn rootworm 4. That is likely within the next couple of years we're gonna move to that. And if you don't remember, the reason for that is, so SmartStack Pro, you got the RNAi in it. VT4 Pro, you got the RNAi. But in both those cases, minimum, the BT protein working on that, that larva has been exposed in the market for minimum 20 years. And so the whole idea with corn rootworm 4 is to replace those proteins. and get back to square one there. Not only will that help in performance, but it's going to keep RNAi working longer. Everybody will always say, well, can they ever become resistant to RNAi? Well, we've broke every other thing we ever tried to use on corn rootworm. So I for sure we get about 10 years out of stuff, and then we learn something. And it doesn't matter if it's a herbicide or anything else. If you start using something heavy, it really does look at it. And this second one, that's to me kind of a, because if you look at the slide before how bushy them roots were, that would be a lower pressure situation to me. And then when you get pressure high enough, even corn rootworm 4, yeah, it's the best one of all of them, but somebody's getting real close to needing to take a year of beans here. Starve them out a little bit, get the population back into something normal. The Viconics still on track. We will have a few local places. The Williams, Iowa site is one. I got, what do you call it, registered for, how do they do that? The government knows I'm doing it.
I know it's just beans, but I do want you guys to see what.
Yeah, and we will.
They do exist.
And I've also got the green light on the herbicide demos that go along with what goes on there. And it's not that dangerous, so you don't have to wear like a Tyvek suit or anything, but nobody's going to let you harvest those beans and run home with them. That'd be against the rules. The good thing about that, this is a new trait. If you think in the past, like you went, there was Roundup and then Roundup Ready to Yield, and then they started stacking. So Roundup got crossed with a plant that had Extend in it. So you leap forward, and then you took that with the two things in it, and you went again to get Extend Flex, and you crossed with Liberty. And to get 5 of them in there, essentially what we did on the right was we've got a lot of germplasm that carries the Roundup already. So that's easy peasy. And on the left, that's a 4-way vector stack. So you only got to do it once to get going and get a donor, because as far as purity out in the field, that vector stack is glufosinate, dicamba, R2,4-D, and our mesotrione traits all in there. So once you make that cross, all you got to do is spray that field or that pile of beans with glyphosate and one of them other 4, and everybody who doesn't have all 4 of those, dead. So you go from, your purity is a lot quicker to get to a product that's doable, where the old way we were doing it was, we were stacking. It would have taken us a lot longer to stack 2 more things on that, many, many times longer, actually. So that was, hopefully that, it's on track, and we're getting more and more things. So hopefully next year's it. One fun thing about the production of that, because it's stewarded, you can't let it enter the grain channel. Well, fun fact, if you're in soybean production, that's not commercial, and you can actually produce seed. The risk on it is we don't carry over soybean seed. So if we don't use all that, we don't need that much parent stock. And its end use would be like a power plant or a nice landfill. So, or it has to sit in a bin until it is marketable. But you pretty got one chance to use it as seed. After that, it's just a commodity. So the Convitro thing.
One thing I do like about that is we can all be friends again.
Yeah.
Spray virtually anything.
Yeah.
Dicamba, 2,4-D.
Yeah.
Liberty.
And it's going to help a lot with tank contamination, clean out, field to field, all that stuff. Because that slows you down when you got a plan like that. That Convitro thing, to me, that's so that was a new one. Uh, Group 12, so it's new to the U.S. We've used it in small grains before, but it really, see if I can, supposed to say, it, they always say it targets palmer and water hemp just because those are the problematic ones, but it's that entire amaranthus group it does quite well on. Another fun fact with it is I did a study last year, and down there at Williams, we had a little spot where we terribly opened up the canopy because apparently if you spray Diflex Duo off into your soybean plot because you're on the phone with the guy who's in charge, it damages the height on those beans and the closure. Makes them, they were very pissed about it. So we had a bunch of water hemp seed that went back there. And that thing, when you use just a few ounces, does very well making other products even better. So if you had a program that was just decent to good, but once in a while you got a respray on it, you put a little bit of that in there, it really perked it up. So I kind of see it being a partner to help other things work. I think originally people had it in their head that that's going to do all the water hemp work. Well, every time we do that in the past and give only one product the job of killing all the water hemp, you wear it out quick. But if I could help some other things that have water hemp activity out by putting that in too, kind of do the 1-2 punch, I'd be better off, I think, long term. And that's how I see it coming to market. It was supposed to be in growers' fields this spring. I haven't seen them cut it loose as far as a label yet. And right now we're close enough to spring. That's going to be very difficult because it's a pre-emerge only. And if I remember right, so like say you get the federal label, you can't immediately start moving product because you've got to get state approval for where it's going to get delivered to. But by the way, wherever it was produced, it can't leave that plant until that state and the states it will pass in between point A and point B have state approval. And that can take weeks. We ain't got weeks. So it may get out there in a small thing. I think I'm going to, again, spray Williams with it. I don't know how many dirty 30s of Bush Light it's going to take, but I think I've got a sucker that's going to move his allocation to my plot. And we got pigweeds out the nose. Did throw in the Striax thing here as a wrap up because there's a little confusion on that. That is the new dicamba herbicide that is labeled for XtendFlex now instead of the old Xtend. How different is it? It's not. Essentially what they did because of the label changes, Striact is the dicamba herbicide. And then with the label updates, as temperature rose, they wanted more and more VRAs in there. And it doesn't have to be our particular product, just anything that's, I believe, oil-based. But as temperatures go up, they'll want you to add more and more. So that first product is no longer preloaded with a VRA. You take that out so people can adapt to this, and it's 0.3% volume to volume, so it's not a ton that has to go in there. They did the whole label. You'll learn all this in training, but it was a little different than the year before because we used to have endangered species counties. And so if there was a spot in a county, then the whole county got colored in. And now it's this point system, and the map has become specific to where those endangered species are. So there was 4 counties around here, and if I'm reading the map right, the endangered species they're trying to protect by not letting me spray any dicamba in all of Saragordo County was somewhere near Pilot Knob, just east of that. And when I looked at that little map, there ain't a lot of farming going on because a lot of it's conservation stuff. So that should be very easy. And then I got worried about doing those point things and stuff, but if you really read into that, if you don't have an irrigator, you already got 3 points. If your ground's flat, you got 3 points. So most of the time, you don't have to do anything to get your points. As long as you're farming something that should be farmed, it was pretty easy. And then instead of all the cutoff dates and crap, they're trying to, this thing is built to assume as temperature goes up, volatility is going to go up. So, you know, like if it's above 95 degrees, they're supposed to be the next day, they want you to hold off spraying. And that's how they're doing it. But if it's cooler, then knock yourself out. But there was just stair steps of how to do it. And it takes, the training's online. Iowa did stick us again with the June 12th. That was something they added. Didn't have it.
So I look at this. You see this date?
Mm-hmm.
All you guys that have beans are like, oh shit, I can't spray that. I can't do that. Yes, you can. And there are, I don't know if any other retailers are going to talk about this or promote this. I will, because we have done it this way. I think it works good. You guys will probably slap my wrist later, but it's called an early post or a late pre.
Yep.
Come back out and spray your beans after they're up. Because the worst flush is the first flush. And I don't know of anything else that kills better than what, as of today anyways, than what dicamba does.
And to me,
you can come with Roundup, dicamba, your residual.
well,
that is a great way to use the product.
And that thing, I mean, as far as your residual, if you're playing that game, so you cleaned your field up with tillage or whatever you did when you planted it, but if you can move now, essentially that burn down or get everything cleaned back up, in once, so you know, into when the beans are going to emerge or shortly after they emerge, I think it helps a ton. And the other trick with it is a lot of the residual products you'd put in that early post, late pre, need a fair amount of water to get rolling. And having that Striax in there, it needs very little. So it can bridge that gap. If you just get a little bit of moisture or the moisture comes late, that thing will reach back while you get that other, they always say it activates, but honestly, you're just getting herbicides active in the jug. You just got to get it in position so it can get sucked up by the weed. But I think that's the place for it.
Great. I know guys in here have done it. We did it, or have done it. One thing too is I'm still young enough to not know how dicamba was used 30, 40 years ago. You kind of want to have that less vegetative.
I want to hit the dirt.
You want to hit the dirt, right?
Yeah.
Fair to say.
Because our rule of thumb with like Marksman, which is just dicamba atrazine, when I started, it's like it's time to spray when you can tell where to drive.
Yep.
So we let the corn get up, and as long as I knew I wasn't driving on the row, cut her loose. And that's where we got the most mileage out of it.
Yep. Then you just come back with the Liberty type. And then once Myconics come out, then you can come back with a 2,4-D. I think that's how that system. I think guys like myself, or retailers need to talk about that kind of system. And I believe that is probably our best bet.
Yeah.
Moving forward, are we even throwing in some in vitro? It's once that we'll come up with some solutions, but it's good to
Well, no.
kind of think ahead now.
One thing about you can think of them 5 modes of action as grower choice, but you can also think about it if something doesn't work. When I got that many choices, now I can go again and not do the exact same herbicide I already did. So I'm not doubling down in the same season as far as selection pressure on weeds. If I, why would it, if you got the ability to switch it up, because one of the things that damaged Roundup the most is how many years that was spent when you sprayed Roundup and didn't work. The solution was spray more Roundup. Here you go. And you didn't have resistant weeds on the first pass. By the third, you probably had it whittled down to some pretty gnarly characters left. But the main thing is, we all get in a hurry during planting season. So we thank you for your business, but have a safe planting season. Be careful out there. It seems like whether it's harvest or planting, the first little while we drive tractors around, it's like the first snowfall. The idiots on the road got to learn that it's that season and slow the hell down. Because that guy who just got his new Subaru Forester, when he runs into your tractor, you're going to win. So we just need to keep our little flashers on and watch out for the idiots, and we'll be good.
One thing I do ask too, as we're going to start treating some beans next week. If you are thinking of planting beans first, let us know so we can have some stuff pre-treated. Make life easier for everybody. We've got plenty of boxes, so we'll have. And then of course, it's supposed to be super nice. The snow should disappear. You ready to deliver seed?
It's supposed to be gone tomorrow.